If your long-lost twin daughters stood before you, and you don't recognize them, what amusing scenarios would unfold? This was the scene that befell the man before us. He was sharp enough to notice his usually lively and spirited daughter, but today she was acting unusually reserved and composed. Though Nick felt a bit uneasy inside, he simply attributed it to the month spent at summer camp. The child had grown up and become more mature, but little did he dream that the person now throwing herself into his arms was not at all his youngest daughter Harry, whom he had spent 11 years with day and night, but rather his other biological daughter, whom he had never met. Another biological daughter, Annie. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, the same mix-up is unfolding when the short-haired girl with earrings rushed into her mother's arms. This most renowned wedding dress designer in London likewise failed to recognize that this was not Anne, the daughter she had raised since childhood, but rather the daughter she had longed for 11 years but never dared to see. The other twin daughter, Harley. The story begins in the summer of 1998 at Camp Walden Lake in Maine. It was just a casual glance over her shoulder. Two girls were stunned to find they looked exactly alike, but soon they developed a rivalry. One grew up in a California vineyard with a free-spirited American flair. The other grew up in a London mansion with an air of British elegance and restraint. The two stood in sharp contrast, but as they chatted, they increasingly felt something was off. They're both allergic to strawberries. They both have the same birthday, October 11th. They're both skilled at playing poker. They both love pulling pranks. The creepiest part is, Annie grew up never knowing her father. Harley never had a mother as long as she can remember. Speaking of which, Holly hurriedly took out a photo of her mother. That was the only photo of her mother. Only half of the photo remained. The edges were torn in a neat, straight line. Annie also hurriedly took out a photo of her father. When the two half photos were joined together to form a complete wedding portrait, the whole world fell silent. It turned out that they were long-lost twin sisters. As it turned out, 11 years ago, their parents, Nick and Lisa, met on a cruise ship. They fell in love at first sight and got married in a whirlwind on the cruise ship. Then they had these twin daughters. But the two young and hot-headed individuals, they were both too proud and too stubborn. After a quarrel, Lisa stormed back to London with Anne, still fuming. She expected Nick to come running after her, but Nick stayed in California. He figured Lisa needed some space, and that wait stretched on for 11 long years. And the two kids, now 1 year old, sensed that both their parents were still single, so they instantly came up with a wild plan to switch places. And just like that, the twins jumped into action. A totally one-of-a-kind spy boot camp kicked off. Harley showed Annie how to pop gum like a true California chick, and how to deal cards like a pro. Annie schooled Harley in proper British English, how to sip tea like a proper English lady, how to do that special family greeting. The toughest part was the ear piercing, since Annie didn't have pierced ears. To keep it from being obvious, Holly put ice on Annie's ears. She placed a slice of apple behind the earlobe as a support, a fire-sterilized needle. Clenching her teeth, she pierced Annie's ear. It was from that moment on they officially became a part of each other. On the last day of summer camp, the two girls got the same haircut and put on matching ear studs. After wrapping up the handover, Harley boarded a first-class flight to London. She was so nervous the whole way that her palms were sweating. She kept practicing her British accent over and over. When she arrived at the airport, the butler was there to pick her up and take her home. Meanwhile, Harley used the greeting gesture she had learned from Annie. For now, Harley didn't blow her cover in front of the butler. Soon after, Harley met her mother in London, the woman she had only ever seen in photos. Her beloved mother was standing right there. "You're back." She threw herself into Lisa's arms. She hugged her with all her might. She poured all the longing of 11 years into this embrace. Lisa stroked her short hair and said with a smile, "You've changed so much since summer camp." But she had no idea that this child had been waiting exactly 11 years for this very day. Meanwhile, in California, Annie saw her father. The man I've only seen in half a photo has broad shoulders and a warm smile. But Anne's natural poise and elegance soon aroused her father's suspicion. Once back at the winery, the nanny rushed out to greet her. Anne didn't let on, but the family's dog sensed something was off. The kid's plan is going perfectly, but then a woman appears in the father's life, shattering all the goodness. Apparently, during the summer camp, Dad got himself a new girlfriend. She's his secretary, young and pretty. She's seductive, with a voice as sweet as honey. Though everyone knew she was just after Nick's money, yet Nick was still considering marrying her. Annie panicked. If so, the chance of her parents getting back together would be even slimmer, so she waited until Nick was gone. She deliberately jumped into the pool, splashing water all over Meredith. It seems this annoying little Gia won't give up. That won't make Marita back down. So Annie went to her dad to talk about her mom, but Nick looked a bit helpless. Just then, Marita rushed in hastily, eagerly pressing Nick to move the wedding along quickly. But Nick was still unsettled about his daughter's stance. Could only tell her to wait a bit longer. Having been put in her place by Anne the day before, Marita had already seen through the girl's underhanded tricks. She gritted her teeth and made up her mind. Then the father made his intentions clear once more. He said Marita is sweet and thoughtful, she'd make a great mom. Annie instantly lost her temper. She came out with a perfect British accent. She furiously accused the woman of not loving him at all. Nick was absolutely puzzled. She turned around and fired off an urgent fax to Harley in London. The paper bore the distress signal they had prearranged. However, the butler intercepted the fax. At that very moment, grandfather ordered the butler to pour him some wine. Meanwhile, Harley, who grew up in a winery, was eager to show off her skills in front of her mother. She swirled the wine glass with a show of expertise. With extreme professionalism, she gently swirled the wine glass. She caught a glimpse of the distress signal on the fax paper the butler was holding by accident. Panicking, she fell straight off the bar stool. Holly made an excuse about feeling dizzy and stepped out to get some air. She dashed into a phone booth and called Anne. She heard on the phone that her father was going to marry another woman. Holly realized she couldn't keep her identity a secret any longer. The next day, she curled up in her blanket. Nervously, she came clean to her mother. Lisa looked at the short-haired girl in front of her. Tears welled up instantly. This is her Harley, the baby she had held in her arms, only a few months old, the little daughter she was forced to part from. She held Harley. Over and over she said, "Mommy loves you. Mommy has always loved you." After learning the truth, Mom decided to go to California. She claimed it was just to swap the kids back. Yet right before she got on the plane, she still tried on several outfits in front of the mirror. As nervous as a teenage girl on her first date, Hal saw it all. She knew that Dad had never left Mom's heart, so Hal made up a lie. She told her that Dad was already waiting at a hotel in San Francisco, and that he was really nervous. She didn't mention that the hotel was the very venue where Nick and Melody were holding their engagement party. Along the way, to settle her pounding heart, Lisa had quite a few drinks to steady her nerves. At the elevator, she bumped into Nick. He was standing intimately close to Melody. Out of decency, she still nodded and greeted him politely. But it was only then that the truth hit her. She'd been played by her own daughters all along. The girls came clean about their scheme, their eyes sparkling with hope. They begged her to call off the wedding, but Lisa steeled herself, claiming she had no right to meddle in Nick's life now, and insisted they go tell their father the truth at once. Nick, meanwhile, had already lost it. He was going crazy looking for Lisa in the hotel hallway. Whenever he sees a short-haired figure from behind, he chases after to confirm. Finally, across the swimming pool, he spotted Lisa. It was as if time had turned back 11 years. He gazed at the one he had yearned for day and night over 11 long years. Standing only a few steps away, the world around him faded to monochrome. He forgot about his in-laws standing nearby, and forgot the ground beneath his feet. He walked toward her like an impulsive young man. Then he missed his step. He fell into the pool with a splash. Drenched, Nick climbed out of the pool, his hair dripping water, looking like a fool. Yet his eyes never left Lisa the whole time. Lisa looked at him and couldn't help laughing. This man still the same as 11 years ago. Clumsy, cute, and heart-stirring. The two daughters came clean about all their plans in front of both parents. After hearing this, Nick felt not a shred of anger. He felt it was simply destined. It enabled this pair of twins, separated for 11 years, to recognize each other at a summer camp thousands of miles away. During this process, both of their hearts skipped a little beat. This budding romance hadn't had time to develop. Then suddenly, Melinda showed up. Annie and Harry quickly stepped forward. As night fell, the sisters guided them to the dock. There, a pre-decorated cruise ship was docked, enveloped in warm yellow lights. Every detail recreated the image of their love from years past. They finally sat down and discussed their breakup. Nick asked her why she had insisted on leaving. Lisa said with regret, "We were too young back then. During fights, we would say the most hurtful things. That time I turned away was just out of a moment of spite. The adult world, it's not as simple as children imagine. 11 years of estrangement. It can't be undone by just saying, 'I still love you.' Besides, Nick was about to get married. Lisa's pride wouldn't allow her to wreck the life Nick had now. But deep down, Nick had already made up his mind. After tucking his two daughters into bed, he led Lisa into the family wine cellar. It housed wines he had treasured for years. Every bottle held a memory, but one bottle stood out in particular. It wasn't just a symbol of Nick's love for wine, but also a testament to his deep affection for Lisa and his sincerity through the years. Just as the mood was getting intense, sudden blinding headlights from a car shone in through the door, like a bucket of cold water being dumped over her. Lisa instantly suppressed all the emotions that had welled up. The next morning, before dawn, she bid a quick goodbye to Nick. She braved the torrential rain to get Annie to the airport. It was as if the rain had followed them from California all the way to London, pounding against the car window. Each drop held unspoken regrets. Annie was sobbing uncontrollably in the back seat. Lisa's heart was clenched as if by an invisible hand. She was suffocated by a sense of loss and wistfulness. That's just how life always is. Regret always clings to us like a shadow, etched into every moment we missed. When they finally got back to their home in London and wanted to let Grandpa know they were safe, Nick showed up out of the blue and said to her 11 years ago, "I didn't come after you, but this time, no matter how tough you act, I'm coming after you." The last shot of the movie is the brand new wedding photo. In the photo, it's no longer the torn half. Instead, it's a family of 4, huddled close together, smiling with pure joy and contentment. And with that, the film comes to an end. Over 2 decades have passed since the film's release. Yet I still find myself in tears over this story. Not because its plot is exceptionally clever, but because it reminds us, true destiny cannot be kept apart by the Atlantic, will not be fated by time. 2 people destined to be together, even if separated for 11 years, even if separated by the entire world, they will eventually find each other. But the love of children has always been braver than that of adults. They dare to think and dare to act, dare to come up with a crazy plan, to mend a family shattered for 11 years, dare to cross the entire Atlantic Ocean, to visit the loved one you've been longing for day and night, dare to muster the purest courage, to redress the wrongs adults commit out of pride and ego. A line from the movie goes, "I've carried it with me for years. The best thing in life is that after all the twists and turns, you find that the one from the beginning is still waiting for you where you left them."